dragging him down to the strong house of death. And the god Apollo left him. And there it is. Irony. Whereas before Priam said, Hector, come into the city, you're all alone out there without your friends. Now Hector is truly alone. Apollo has left him. He is completely abandoned. And now it will simply be Athena who will take over to destroy, obviously, Hector, and by extension, obviously, the city of Troy. Athena, we're told, rushed to Achilles, her broad eyes gleaming, standing shoulder to shoulder, winging orders now. At last, she says to Achilles, at last our hopes are on high, my brilliant Achilles. Father Zeus must love you. We'll sweep great glory back to Achaea's fleet. We'll, notice it's we, will kill this Hector mad as he is for battle. Really? And what is Achilles if he's not mad for battle? No way for him to escape us now. No longer. Not even Apollo, the distant deadly archer, goes through torments, pleading for Hector's life, groveling over and over before our storming father Zeus. But you hold your ground and catch your breath while I run Hector down and persuade the man to fight you face to face. So we're told that she does. She takes the form of Diphibius, his brother. And Hector immediately, at line 273, recognizes him. And he says, dear brother, how brutally swift Achilles haunts you. So here's Diphibius talking with Hector now, coursing you round the city of Priam in all his lethal speed. Come, let us stand our ground together. Beat him back. And then Hector, Diphibius, I mean, this is brutal. This is Athena, pretending to be the brother of Hector, by the way, not Paris here, but rather Diphibius, right? And he says, Diphibius, dearest of all my brothers, all these warring years of all the sons that Priam and Hecuba produced, now I'm determined to praise you all the more. You who dared, seeing me in these straits, right, to venture out from the walls, all for my sake, while the others, we think of Paris, right, stay inside and cling to safety. Dark irony. This could be the darkest irony. Some of my students have said this is the darkest irony of all the Iliad. Hector believes he's got support. He believes he has somebody who has his back. No. The scales have tipped. The goddess answered quickly, her eyes blazing. True, dear brother. How your father and mother both implored me time and again, clutching my knees, and the comrades round me begging me to stay. Such was the fear that broke them, man for man. But the heart within me broke with grief for you. Now, headlong on and fight. No, let up. No lance spared. So now, we'll see if Achilles kills us both and hauls our bloody armor back to the beaked ships, or he goes down in pain beneath your spear. And then the line, at line 395, Athena luring him on with all her immortal cunning. And now at last, as the two came closing for the kill, it was tall Hector, helmet flashing, who led off. And so here we go now. We are ready for the scene of all scenes. And again, as I think I said to you in some of those intro comments, this fight, for many of my students, is kind of anticlimactic once it happens. If you have been reading the Iliad all the way to this point, you have seen this face-off between two warriors before. And they all go through the same project. We got the, of course, the taunting that has to take place, the back and forth with the words, and then, of course, we have the fight scene, and then somebody's got to get jacked. Hector will begin. No more running, he says, from you in fear, Achilles. Not as before. 3 times I fled around the great city of Priam. I lacked courage then to stand your onslaught. Now my spirit stirs me to meet you face to face. Now, kill or be killed, line 300. Come, we'll swear to the gods, the highest witnesses, the gods will oversee our binding pacts. I swear I will never mutilate you, merciless as you are, if Zeus allows me to last it out and tear your life away. But once I've stripped your glorious armor, Achilles, I will give your body back to your loyal comrades. Swear you'll do the same. We're told a swift glance, and the headstrong runner answered, Hector, stop. You, unforgivable. You. Sometimes translated, I think Fitzgerald translates this as unforgiven as you are. Clint Eastwood's film, Unforgiven, does come to mind for those of you that know the Academy Award film. Don't talk to me of pacts. There are no binding oaths between men and lions. Wolves and lambs can enjoy no meeting of the minds. They are all bent on hating each other to the death. So with you and me, No love between us, no truce till one of the other falls and gluts with blood Ares, who hacks at men behind his rawhide shield. Come, call up whatever courage you can muster, life or death. Now prove yourselves a spearman, a daring man of war. No more escape for you. Athena will kill you with my spear in just a moment. Dark irony, because that's about what's to happen. Now you'll pay it a stroke for all my comrades' griefs, as you killed in the fury of your spear. By the way, let's remind that Hector was able to kill all of those comrades of Achilles because Achilles was pouting in his tent because he lost his Scooby snack of Briseis, right? So, I mean, let's not forget why all those Greeks died, right? And yet, this is a disturbing passage for us, isn't it? Because what does it suggest? It suggests conflict resolution and the hope for peace. If you've got somebody in the peace process who believes there is a fundamental distinction between himself or herself and somebody else, you can't have peace accords. Here, notice, Achilles says there is no accord between, right, wolves and lambs. They are fundamentally different beings. To speak, and of course the romantic language of the great William Blake, from Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience, some people are lambs and some people are tigers, and that's just the way it is, right? With that, then, we're going to have the back and forth, okay? So, Achilles will throw his spear at Hector, and he'll miss. And Hector will begin the taunting. We knew this was coming, because we've been studying these exchanges, right, at line 330 or so. You missed, he says. Look, the great god, like Achilles. So you knew nothing at all from Zeus about my death, and yet how sure you were, all bluff, cunning with words. We're back to that passage that is so ironic, right, that Achilles would say in Book 9, line 378. Remember, he said, I hate somebody who says one thing and hides another in his heart. Here, cunning with words. Of course, we know who is cunning with words. Usually it's Odysseus, right? That's all you are, trying to make me fear you, lose my nerve, forget my fighting strength. Well, you'll never plant your lance in my back as I flee you in fear. Plunge it through my chest as I come charging in, if a god gives you the chance. But now it's for you to dodge my brazen spear. I wish you'd bury it in your body to the hilt. Something will get buried in the body to the hilt, right? How much lighter the world would be for Trojans than if you, their greatest scourge, were dead and gone. Then we're told that there is, for Hector, a throw, but the shield protects, right? And in the meantime, of course, with the throwing of the spear of Achilles, Athena, we're told, snatched it up and passed it back to Achilles. But Hector never saw her. This seeing is going to play an important role, right? Hector will call it a wasted shot. He will seethe. He stood there cast down. He had no spear in reserve. So Hector shouts out to Dephibulus, right? Bearing his white shield with a ringing shout. He called for a heavy lance. But we're told, line 348, the man was nowhere near him. Vanished. Then the word yes. And Hector knew the truth in his heart. And the fighter cried aloud. This is again one of those powerful epiphanies that are a soliloquy. My time has come. Line 350. At last the gods had called me down to death. I thought he was at my side, the hero Dephibulus. He's safe inside the walls. Athena's tricked me blind. Notice this whole thing about sight. I mean, you can't read this stuff without thinking, of course, about Oedipus Rex, can you, right? And whole blindness thing. And now, death, grim death, is looming up beside me, no longer far away. We think about that moment when Zeus kind of went, dude, you don't know what you're doing putting on Achilles' armor, right? No way to escape it now. This was their pleasure, after all, sealed long ago. Zeus and the son of Zeus, the distant deadly archer, though often before now they rushed to my defense. So now I meet my doom. Well, let me die, and not without struggle, not without glory. No, in some great clash of arms that even men to come will hear of down the years. Of course, that is this poem that we're reading, right? And we're told then, the swords are drawn. He will go at Achilles. Achilles, of course, will recognize that Hector is wearing his old armor. The one place where there is a vulnerable spot. Athletes, no matter how amazing they are, will tell you they know what their greatest weakness is. True for Achilles, right? And he recognizes the one weakness is at the throat area, and he is able then quickly to dispatch Hector. However, we're told that he slashes the windpipe. Hector could still gasp out some words, and so we have this famous motif. We're going to see it again many times in our studies. Certainly we're going to see it, for example, in Beowulf Part 3, when Beowulf has been bitten in the throat by the dragon, but he can still talk. Here we go, right? Here we have, though, the victor standing over Hector, and he's ready to begin the taunting. We've seen this before. And line 390. Hector, surely you thought when you stripped Patroclus' armor that you would be safe. Never a fear of me, far from the fighting as I was, you fool. Left behind there, down by the beak ships, his great avenger waited. A greater man by far. Same thing that he said to Lycaon, right? That man was I, and I smashed your strength. Of course, it was really Athena, right? And you, he says, the dogs and birds will maul you. The birds, of course, the buzzards. Shame your corpse, while Achaeans bury my dear friend in glory, Cleos. Struggling for breath. Hector, his helmet flashing, said, I beg you by your life, your parents, don't let the dogs devour me by the Argive ships. Wait, take the princely ransom of bronze and gold, the gifts my father and noble mother will give you, but give my body to friends to carry home. Again, setting us obviously up for book 24. So Trojan men and Trojan women can do me honor with fitting rites of fire once I'm dead. Staring grimly, the proud runner Achilles answered, beg no more, you fawning dog, begging me by my parents. Would to God my rage, my fury would drive me now to hack your flesh away and eat you raw. Whoa. Line 409. Such agonies have you caused me. Now, we got to pause here and ask, what agonies is he talking about? Because Achilles has obviously inflicted far more agonies on Hector and the Trojans than Hector has inflicted on Achilles. When Achilles sent Patroclus into battle, Achilles had to know there was the potentiality for his death, which is why he told him not to go to Troy. Patroclus disobeyed and ended up dying. And yet here it is for all the agonies. Again, I'll go back to the comments that I made earlier. I believe that Achilles is struggling with a crisis of what he believes. He doesn't really believe in the warrior code anyway, and yet here he is, and he is going to take it out on Hector and, of course, Hector's body. No man, he says, ransom? No man alive could keep the dog packs off you. Not if they haul in 10, 20 times that ransom and pile it here before me and promise fortunes more. In other words, I'm not interested in Time. We know this already because, of course, of the way he responded in Book 9, and then later how he responded again when Agamemnon and he finally kiss and make up. He's still not interested in the Time, is he? No, not even Dardan Priam could offer to weigh out your bulk in gold. Not even then will your noble mother lay you on your deathbed, mourn the son she bore. The dogs and birds will rend you, blood and bone. At that point of death, Hector, his helmet flashing, said, I know you well. I see my fate before me. Never a chance that I could win you over. Iron inside your chest, that heart of yours. This has been said about Achilles. It's like you're not human, right? But now, and again, like we said before, and this happened with, of course, the death of Patroclus, right? The Greeks believed that at the moment of death, you kind of had this ability to have an ability to prophesy. Remember that we've already said that when we study our Plato, and especially Apology, Socrates, right before he drinks his hemlock shake, Socrates will say to the Athenian people, I can tell you what's coming. Here is the prophecy. But now, beware, at line 423, but now beware, or my curse will draw God's wrath upon your head. That day when Paris and Lord Apollo, for all your fighting heart, destroy you at the Scythian gates. Paris is mentioned one last time. The last time we heard of Paris, it was in book 13, line 913. That's the last mention of Paris, and yet here he is. He's been here the whole time. Any time that Achilles' death has been mentioned, it's been Paris, right? Here we are. And then we're told, death cut him short, the end closed in around him, flying free of his limbs, his soul went flying down to the house of death, wailing his fate, leaving his manhood far behind, his young and supple strength. But brilliant Achilles taunted Hector's body, dead as he was. Die, die, for my own death I'll meet it freely. He's ready to trade his life for this experience. Whenever Zeus and the other deathless gods would like to bring it on. In other words, Achilles' attitude here is the same attitude that he has when Roan Beauty told him, you're going to die. When Thetis told him, you're going to die. Achilles has no reason to live. Why? I don't think it's because Patroclus is dead. I don't think it's because even if it's his lover, Patroclus, his lover, is dead. I think it's because Achilles no longer believes anymore. He has no reason to live. He is willing to die because he has nothing to lose. To that degree, Hector has all kinds of stuff to lose. And in that moment, makes, of course, Hector a far more heroic figure. Dude, this is a Greek poem. And yet Hector is the one that will often come across for many of my readers in 303 as being far more heroic. He had far more to lose. And he was willing to risk it all, and he dies. Well, there it is. That's the fight. And then, of course, at the conclusion of this one, right, you've got the aftermath, right? We're told a few lines later at line 435, not a man came forward who did not stab Hector's body, glancing toward a comrade, laughing. Ha! Look here! How much softer Hector is to handle now, this Hector, than when he glutted our ships with roaring fire, and they all come up and they stab him. Two observations here. This is, again, a way for the poet to point out how, really, these Greeks, they're kind of, they're not that heroic here at this moment, but Hector certainly is, right? We then will have Achilles speaking to all the Greeks at line 443. Friends, lords of the Argives, O my captains, now that the gods have let me, notice it's me, kill this man who caused us agonies. Really? Agonies, of course, right? Loss on crushing loss, more than the rest of all their men combined. Come, let us ring their walls in armor, test them, see what recourse the Trojans still may have in mind. Will they abandon the city heights with this man fallen, or brace for a last dying stand, though Hector's gone? In other words, hey, let's find out if these Trojans are ready to just give it up now. Man, we might even be able to take the city right now. And then, but wait. This is very similar to, of course, Hector, who said the same thing. But wait, I know I can maybe, but wait, what am I saying? He remembers, of course, book 21, line 334, and the admonition from Apollo that said, and Poseidon that said, when you kill Hector, get back. But wait, what am I saying? Why this deep debate? Down by the ships a body lies, unwept, unburied, Patroclus. I will never forget him, not as long as I'm still among the living, and my springing knees will lift and drive me on. Of course, the irony of that is Achilles won't be very much more left. Though the dead forget their dead in the house of death, I will remember, even there, my dear companion. Put a note that in the Odyssey, when Odysseus takes his little journey down into the underworld, one of the people he might run across is somebody named Achilles. And it might be interesting to find out what Achilles is still remembering down in the underworld. The poet, of course, the genius of the poet here is already setting us up for maybe that conversation. Line 460. Now, he says, come, you sons of Achaea, raise a song of triumph. Down to the ships we march and bear this corpse on high. We have won ourselves great glory. Notice he went from I to we. We have won ourselves great glory, Kleos. We have brought magnificent Hector down. That man the Trojans gloried in their city like a god. Again, Hector is not a god. Achilles is part god, part deity because of Thetis, his mother. Not Hector, right? And yet Hector has shown himself like a god, at least to those who are in the city. Of course, those in the city get to watch what happens next. The unthinkable, right? And of course, one of the more disturbing scenes in a poem of some really disturbing scenes. The hook through the heel. Ironically, of course, Achilles will die with a shot to his own Achilles tendon, right? Hooking and then dragging the body of Hector. A thick cloud of dust rose up from the man they dragged, his dark hair swirling, 475. That head so handsome once, all tumbled low in the dust, since Zeus had given him over to his enemies now, to be defiled in the land of his own fathers. So his whole head was dragged down in the dust. And now his mother began to tear her hair. She flung her shining veil to the ground. This veil imagery, we'll see it here and we'll also see it with Andromache, his wife. The veil is a powerful representative of course, the city of Troy and the walls of Troy. The Greek word actually is synonymous, but also, of course, this notion that we've heard it before. The Greek men are so excited to get into the walls of Troy so that they can rape the women inside the walls of Troy. The veil, the shining veil, flung to the ground. And she raised a high, shattering scream. We've heard screams all the way through the Iliad. Again, I'm just trying to point out to you the genius of this poem, the way everything starts to come together at the end in Book 22. Looking down at her son, pitifully his loving father, Priam, groaned, and round the king his people cried with grief, and wailing seized the city for all the world, as if all Troy were torched and smoldering. We know that's coming, right? Down from the looming brows of the citadel to her roots. Priam's people